So, welcome to Exodus 19, a nation married to Yah, with your host, Richard Massey. I pray that you guys are having a blessed Sabbath. And I pray also that whatever you and your family are going through, that Yah gives you the strength to go through it. Even that part of the introduction is funny, because I was reading Job 1 today. I pray also that whatever you and your family are going through, that Yah gives you the strength to go through it. So please go get your Bible, because today we're going to be reading from Yirmeyahu 35. Yirmeyahu 35 or Jeremiah 35. And in this chapter, we're going to see how Elohim is going to tell Yirmeyahu to invite the children of Rekabites into the house of Elohim, and how he's going to tell Yirmeyahu to give them some wine to drink. But the interesting part is going to be what the children of the Rekabites tell Yirmeyahu in reference to this offering of wine. So today I call this chapter, I believe that this chapter is going to be hitting again under the acts of, and these are just titles that I give it. They're synonymous and they go together. This is going to be under Ahab and Jezebel. This is going to be under false prophets and false doctrine, with the traditions of men leading us into deception. Ahab and Jezebel, which is a false prophet, teaching false doctrine, creating traditions of men, leading us into deception. So, Yirmeyahu 35:1. The word which came to Yirmeyahu from Yahweh in the days of Jacob, son of sovereign of Yehuda, saying, 2. Go to the house of the Rekabites, and you shall speak to them and bring them into the house of Yahweh, into one of the rooms, and give them wine to drink. This is Yahweh telling Yirmeyahu or Jeremiah to invite the Rekabites into the house of Yahweh and give them wine to drink. 3. And I took Hazaniah, the son of Yirmeyahu, the son of Habat Tashinsah, and his brothers and all his sons and all the house of the Rekabites. 4. And I brought them into the house of Yahweh, into the room of the sons of Hannah, son of Yirmeyahu, a man of Elohim, which was by the chamber of the heads, above the room of Masenyahu, son of Shalom, the keeper of the door. And I sat before the sons of the house of the Rekabites, bowls filled with wine and cups. And I said to them, drink. So all this introduction of precisely who the room is owned by, just to tell us that Yirmeyahu set the Rekabites in a particular room and gave them bowls filled with wine and cups so that they can drink the wine, right? And then Yirmeyahu says to the Rekabites, the children of the Rekabites, he says, drink the wine. Because Yahweh is going to show Yirmeyahu something visually, right? And this happens today. A lot of times, instead of us listening to or reading what the word of Elohim says, because we like a particular speaker, we won't even challenge him or her on what the word says when they're veering off and they're missing the point of a particular chapter or verse. Because we feel as though they are so anointed and that they're so applied in life to reading the word, and because we don't really understand, I hear a lot of people say that. I try to read the Bible, but I cannot understand it. The translation of the languages is too hard to understand, so I'd rather rely on somebody who I believe went to school and studied and had in his license to be a speaker. You see me butcher these names in verses 1 and 2, but that's not going to stop me from studying to show myself approved, to rightly divide the word of Yah, need not to be ashamed. I need to know this stuff, and it's been ordered by Elohim for me to know it. I don't need to have a license or went to seminary school. A lot of these chapters can be misunderstood, but a lot of these chapters are plain and simple, right? A lot of them you don't have to have a degree to understand. I know in Catholicism, they recommend you don't read on your own, and I think in the Jehovah's Witness, they all have aids, other books that you can read along with the Bible. And I think in a lot of religions, they say you're not qualified to open the Bible up by yourself and read it. You must have our aids and our books and somebody to explain it to you. You're not capable of understanding what the word of Elohim is saying. So you need us. But even with me mispronouncing a lot of the names in verses 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, you're not going to stop me from reading the word of Elohim so that I can understand what it's saying for me and my friends and family. One of the purposes of me reading is because you never know what kind of conversation you're going to get in with somebody. And I don't know everything, but I'm going to try to know as much as I can. So in the first 5 verses in Yirmeyahu or Jeremiah 35, you see that Yirmeyahu is inviting the Rekabites in to the house of Elohim to drink wine. And we see in verse 5 that he provided the wine and he provided the cups to them. Right? And 6. Now listen to what the Rekabites said to Yirmeyahu. Right? 6. But they said, we do not drink wine. So why don't y'all drink wine? He says, because Yonadab, the son of Rekab, our father, commanded us, saying, you shall not drink wine, neither shall you or your sons forever. So Yonadab, the son of Rekab, our father, commanded us, saying, you shall not drink wine, neither you nor your sons forever. 7. And this is also what he said to the children of the Rekabites. And do not build a house, neither sow seed, nor plant a vineyard, nor have any of these, but dwell in tents all your days. You never advance to a house. He says, so that you may live many days on the face of the land where you are sojourners. He's saying we don't buy into where we're at. This is not our land. We are strangers here. We are journeymen here. We don't build houses. We stay in tents all our days. We don't buy into their system. This is what the children of the Rekabites is telling Yirmeyahu. Right? 8. So the Rekabites is explaining to Yirmeyahu in 8, he says, so we obeyed the voice of Yonadab, our son of Rekab, our father, and all that he commanded us, to drink no wine all our days, we, our wives, our sons, or our daughters, because we obey our father, right? He says in 9, nor to build ourselves houses to dwell in. And we have no vineyard or seed, or field or seed. 10, he said, but dwell in tents and have obeyed and done according to all that Yonadab, our father, commanded us. 11, and it came to be when Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, or the king of Babel, came up into the land, that we said, come, let us go to Jerusalem for fear of the army of the Chaldeans and for fear of the army of the Armenians. So we dwelled in Jerusalem. So now Elohim is going to talk to Yirmeyahu, because Yirmeyahu just got finished talking to the person, the Rekabites, right? So now looking in verse 12. And the word of Yahweh came to Yirmeyahu, or came to Jeremiah, saying, 13, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. He says, go and you shall say to the men of Yehuda and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, he says, have you not received instructions to obey my words, declares Yahweh? 14, he says, the word of Yenadab, the son of Rechem, which he commanded his sons not to drink wine, are established. He said, and they have not drunk wine, they have not drunk until this day, for they have obeyed their father's command, and as for me, I have spoken to you, raising early and speaking, but you have not obeyed me. And what he means when he said rising early and speaking, he said, I send prophets to you, reaffirming my words since Exodus 19. I send judges in the book of Judges. I send prophets early in the morning. He says, but you don't even obey me. He said, but these guys' father tell them to do something one time. And they have lived and died and never experienced outside of what their father told them not to do. But I sent many prophets to you saying the same thing, and you turn your back on me. So you see the point that Elohim is giving Yirmeyahu about how we're not obedient, and how people would rather listen to another man than to listen to the creator of that man. 15, and I send to you all my servants, the prophets, rising up early and sending them, saying, turn each one from his evil way and make good your deed, and do not go after other mighty ones to serve them. And you shall dwell in the land which I have given you, you and your fathers. But you have not inclined your ear or obeyed me. He says, tell the children of Israel and the children of Jerusalem that you have not obeyed me. But look at the people of the Rekabites. Their father told them something one time. You think that in their hearts they don't desire to have a drink? That they don't desire to have a field or a vineyard or a house to live in, an actual house to live in? You think out of all the people that are the children of that particular person, that nobody desires to have this particular thing that he's telling them that they cannot have? But they will not cross the line because they want a better life for themselves, because they believe in what he's saying. But I tell you to do something, and because your heart desired to do it, you'll throw my word by the wayside. Because that's another thing. Everything we desire to do inside of our mind, which is our heart, right? We do it and we make excuses to why we can do it. Because that particular thing that we're doing or want to do makes us feel good than the word that he's sending. So we turn our back. A lot of 16. The sons of Yahadab, the son of Rechab, has indeed carried out the commands of their father, which he commanded them, but this people has not obeyed me. His kids are obeying him. He's just a man. But you guys have not obeyed me. Do you think that Elohim is feeling some kind of way about the fact that we are listening to a particular person than him? And a lot of times the first thing a pastor do, or anybody who is in charge is they tell you to open up the Bible to a particular chapter and verse. And you do it, and you're clueless half the time to what he's even talking about. And then he goes on a whole nother tangent about what the Bible is saying, and you're sitting right there following behind him and can't even follow behind him because you don't even read your word. So when we're not interpreting the word right, we get mad at Elohim and we decide not to follow him anymore, or we go and join another religion or another church. So he said in 17, he said, therefore thus says Yahweh Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. See, I am bringing on Yehuda and on all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil that I have pronounced against them, because I have spoken to them, but they did not listen, and I have called to them, but they did not answer. And I talked to a lot of people, including my wife. When I first started understanding this difference in the last 5 years, I would say I left the church, but I actually left the church maybe 6 to 7, maybe 8 years prior to that. So it's probably 13 years in totality that I have not been a member of a particular ministry. But for 13 years, I've always read my word. And 6 years ago, I started watching this particular guy, Watchman Reports, and then it would transfer into somebody else. And each one of these people started pouring these wisdom to me in my life. They allowed me to see the word of Elohim differently to where I am today. So when I ran into this particular person on YouTube and I started taking notes and following his ministry, I was consumed with what he was saying. And it made so much sense to me, other than all the other 30, 40 years of my life in Christendom, right? And I said to my wife, how did this hit me so hard to transfer my understanding to what this person is saying in the last 5 years of my life? And I hear so many people say this. And my wife says, that's because, what'd she say? She said, that's because you were ready to receive, but you got to give people a chance when you're explaining a particular thing to them. You have to give people a chance to understand it. I said, but I understood it the first time I heard it. And she said, yeah, but people need a chance. And I hear so many people say that. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is not out of arrogance, right? But look at 17 again. He says, therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. He says, see, he says, I am bringing on Yehuda and on all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil that I pronounced against them. He says, because I have spoken to them, but they did not listen, and I have called to them, but they did not answer. So let's break that down slowly, because I need somebody to receive this. He never says, and I know some plant the seed, some water, and Elohim gets the increase. He never says, but I'm going to take it easy on the person that's trying to get it. And maybe I'm totally wrong in this, but he never says, when I come back, I'm gonna know the heart of the person that was on the fence about it, that was battling back and forth in his mind and his spirit. I don't read no chapter where that type of person is going to be exonerated or excused for still trying to work it out in his spirit, in his heart. He said, I'd rather you hot or cold, but warm, I'm going to spit you out my mouth. And another thing that I don't like, that when I'm talking to a loved one or a friend that's a loved one, and they're not receiving it, and a lot of my friends say, well, you wipe the dust off your feet and you're keeping it going. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I do understand that, but I don't like that. I don't want none of my loved ones to not come with me because I do believe I'm going. I do believe I have a greater understanding than I did 10 years ago. I just do. He says, therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. See, I'm bringing on Yehuda and on all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil that I have pronounced against them, because I have spoken to them, but they have not listened. Some people not listening to this podcast. There's a lot of people that know I'm doing podcasts, but they will not give me the time of day. Right? That's okay. But it's really not. He said, but they have, and they did not listen, and I have called to them, but they did not answer. 18, and Yirmeyahu said to the house of the Rekabites, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, because you have obeyed the command of Yonadab, your father, and guarded all his commandments and done according to all that he commanded you. 19, therefore thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, of Yonadab, son of Rekab, there shall never cease a man to cease to be a man to stand before me. Look at the reward they get. Look at the reward they get. Because Elohim loves their obedience. Therefore, thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, of Yonadab, the son of Rekab, there shall never cease to be a man to stand before me. Because you listened to your father. And from what I'm getting, he was spot on about the obedience that he gave to them. I think that what Elohim is trying to point out is they listened to him on the first shot, the children of Yonadab. He says, but my children, man, they are stiff-necked, and they make excuses and do everything they want to do that makes them feel good. And they turn their back on me. I thought that was a nice chapter. 19 verses, pretty short, but effective. Right? Oh man, I didn't read my chapters today. 2 Chronicles 17, 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I shall hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins and heal their land. Man, how did I mess that up? Because when I said go and get your Bibles, I didn't scroll down and see that. In Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these matters shall be added unto you. Man, and it seems like every verse just coincides with everything else. It seems like no matter how big the Bible is, a lot of the chapters are talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So it makes the Bible seem like it's not that big. Because even though things are happening in different parts of in different nations, the subject never changes. So this is just a reminder that this podcast is on Spotify, and how you can find me is Richard's Podcast. And I'm also on Instagram, and you can find me there. I'm going to take some of these platforms off because I'm really not getting any views, and that's important. I ain't going to lie. Sometimes you be wanting people to listen to what you say. I'm live on YouTube as well. You can find me at 19 Exodus, Richard Massey. I'm also on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok at Exodus 19. So don't forget to like my page and to share it where it applies. And don't forget to hit the notification button. And let's give a round of applause to Elohim and Yahshua. Because they are worthy to be praised from the rising of the sun until the going down of the same. And a shout out to my man Richard Turner for giving me my background music. So have a blessed day, guys. Shalom.